I resent two-part adaptations of a book because it's a blatantly obvious way of the studio trying to squeeze out as much money out of the IP before they move on to the next big thing. However, It, the novel, is 1,400 pages long that's also split into two distinct halves. So I guess I could give this one a pass. Hello there everybody, it's me, the Canadian Movie Buff, with a review of It Chapter 2. It Chapter 2 follows the Losers Club as they return to Derry 27 years after their initial encounter with Pennywise. Pennywise is back and has started up another killing spree. This time, the losers plan to kill the monster and free the town from its grasp once and for all. It's no understatement to say that It Chapter 1 was a massive success, breaking countless records for the horror genre both domestic and worldwide. Still standing strong at a little over $700 million, it is the highest grossing horror film of all time. Warner Brothers was always going to make a second part. That was always in the cards, always in the plan, but I don't think they were expecting it to become this global phenomenon. The success wasn't unwarranted either, getting positive reviews from critics and audiences alike. As with any sequel, there's a lot of pressure for this movie. The expectations are higher. We want to see how time has changed. How will the losers finally defeat Pennywise? That being said, sequels tend to be disappointments, even if they are intended to be second halves of a story. Not to mention, this film clocks in at a lengthy 2 hours and 50 minutes, almost as long as the entire 1990 miniseries. Does it deliver everything we were hoping from a second half? Or does this movie deserve to stare directly into the deadlights? What made the characters work so well the first time was the chemistry and the bond they all shared. Some of them were brought together because they were friends in school. Others were brought together because they are scared of Pennywise. And the kid actors had great chemistry together. You truly felt as if they were all friends, even in real life. That element translated really well into the adult version, and the casting was spot on. We have A-list stars who everybody knows, and actors who weren't household names before, but they are now. We got James McAvoy, Jessica Chastain, and Bill Hader as Bill, Beverly, and Richie. They clearly showed how these characters evolved over the years, and how those childhood versions of themselves come out when they fight Pennywise. The same could be said for Isaiah Mustafar, Jay Ryan, and James Ranson, who play Mike, Ben, and Eddie. And let me tell you something, this is really going to skyrocket their careers. I liked the direction they took of these characters. All 6 losers have their own story, their own arc to go through. Beverly finally confronting her abusive past, Ben overcoming his low self-esteem, Bill still blaming himself for the death of his brother. You really get a good sense of the evolution of these characters. The opening sequence with Mike calling up his fellow losers that Pennywise is back is a technical marvel in terms of editing, cinematography, and dialogue. It doesn't just settle to, he picks up the phone, we cut to this loser picking it up, Ben calls someone else, and they suddenly cut to a business meeting, and then he takes the call, and yeah. Each introduction of the grown-up versions of the losers feels unique, as well as their reception of the news. And there are no shortage of visual treats in this movie, whether it's just clever Easter eggs, or the cinematography, or the makeup done on the actors to show how a character is feeling. Although my favorite shot has to be when Eddie is standing out the counter at the pharmacy in Derry, and then it slowly fades in as the kid version of himself walks up to the counter, and then he sort of fills the adult version of himself with the kid self, and there's this really well done crossfade between the two. Again, they could have not casted better adult actors for these characters. I've never attempted to edit a full-length feature film before, but I definitely felt there were a couple scenes here and there that could have either been shortened down or taken out entirely. Sometimes you get a scare that lasts too long, or they build up to a horror scene that didn't feel like it was building up to anything. Or worse yet, it feels too long for the one scene to progress onto the next. There were definitely moments where it felt like they were trying their best to hit that sweet 3-hour mark. And there were also moments where it was kind of hard to take the horror aspect seriously. For example, the scene where Beverly visits her old apartment and gets terrorized by an old lady. And boy, let me tell you, I get they were trying to create this like scary, monstrous creature, but It would have just been scarier if Pennywise had jumped out of the shadows. That's all I'm going to say. Now, the final showdown is probably the most epic finale you will see in a horror film this year, but it is a strain on the eyes. There's always constant flashing and quick cutting. Again, it's a good final battle, but man, your eyes get sore quick. It Chapter 2 is an overall great film, lending itself to plenty of scares and character moments while also implementing this weird blend of horror and sci-fi and comedy. I agree that Chapter 1 is better, but I think it was because it was this dark and mature adult story that was predominantly carried by child actors. I wouldn't be surprised if there are people out there who think we're better off with just the first half, seeing as how Chapter 2 is considered to be weirder and more trippy, and overall a mixed bag in terms of content and tone. The only thing is, you kinda do need both parts, as they do tell one massive story. The question becomes, do you try to see it as this long 5-6 hour movie, or do you see it as two distinct parts? Whatever the case may be, I enjoyed It Chapter 2, and it will probably make my top 10 of 2019, albeit near the bottom half, somewhere between the 6 and 10 ranking. Unless these next couple months turn out to be a real crapshoot and it does end up going further up the list. I can guarantee you that this will stick with you after just one viewing, but that won't stop me from recommending that you see it multiple times at the theater and or on Blu-ray. Alright, that's my review of It Chapter 2. Have you seen it? What did you think about it? Leave your answers and thoughts in the comments down below. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, and hit the bell icon if you're new here. And as always, this is the Canadian Movie Ref saying, I hope you had a fantastic weekend at the movies. See ya!